Let me tell you something that most folks won't. I've lived long enough to see the truth hidden in plain sight. I'm not here to preach, but I've watched friends, family, and even myself fall into the same traps that make us look older than we need to. It's not always the deep wrinkles or gray hair that give you away. It's the small, sneaky habits that creep in as the years roll by. Ugly habits that silently age you. Things everyone notices, but nobody has the heart to point out. And the worst part is we often don't even realize we're doing them. Until one day you catch your reflection and think, who is that tired soul looking back at me? I've been there. And if you're honest with yourself, maybe you have too. The first habit is poor posture. Now don't roll your eyes. You might think it's not a big deal, but it is. I used to slump in my chair, hunch over my phone, walk with my shoulders rounded like I was carrying the weight of the world. I didn't notice it at first. But then people started asking me if I was tired, if I was feeling okay. They weren't being mean. They were just seeing what I had become blind to. That slow curve of the spine, that head tilted down, it makes you look defeated, like life has drained the fight out of you. And nothing adds years to your image like looking beaten down. The fix is simple but not easy. You've got to train your body to stand tall again. Every morning I stretch. I open up my chest, pull my shoulders back, lift my chin, and when I walk, I picture a string pulling me up from the crown of my head. It takes effort, but it's worth it. Because good posture doesn't just make you look younger, it makes you feel alive again. The second habit is something I call the dead eyes. You know what I mean? That blank, distant stare that so many older folks wear like a mask. It comes from years of routine, of disappointment, of slowly letting go of the wonder that once lit up your soul. I remember watching my reflection one day and realizing that the sparkle in my eyes was gone. That scared me more than any wrinkle ever could. Eyes are the window to your spirit. When they go dull, people stop seeing you. You become invisible, and the only way to fix it is to reignite what you once cared about. I started painting again, not to be good at it, just to feel something. I made time to call old friends. I started walking in places I'd never been before. Curiosity is youth's secret fuel. When you feed it, your eyes come alive again. People notice. They won't tell you, but they'll feel it. They'll see you again. Now the third habit is one nobody likes to admit: neglecting personal grooming. I'm not talking about vanity, I'm talking about giving up. Letting your hair go wild, wearing the same baggy clothes day in and day out, skipping basic hygiene because you think, what's the point? The point is respect, for yourself and for others. When I stopped caring about how I looked, I noticed people started treating me differently. They looked past me, like I was no longer part of the world, and honestly, I didn't blame them. So I changed. I got a proper haircut. I found clothes that fit well and made me feel good. I trimmed my nails. I put on lotion. Not for anyone else, but for me. Because taking care of yourself is a declaration. It says, I'm still here. I still matter. You don't need fancy brands or expensive treatments, just the will to show up for yourself. The fourth habit is isolating yourself. This one crept up on me. At first, I just needed more rest. Then I started turning down invitations. I told myself I was happier alone. But little by little, loneliness grew like rust on my soul. I started talking to the television. I went days without hearing my own voice. And I aged faster in those years than ever before. People need people. That's not weakness. That's biology. We're wired for connection. If you don't use that part of yourself, it withers, and you become a shell. I forced myself to rejoin the world. I said yes to dinner, even when I didn't feel like it. I joined a local book club. I started volunteering once a week. At first it was awkward, but over time, those little moments brought color back to my life, and others started saying I looked younger. Not because I'd changed my face, but because I'd come back to life. The fifth habit is clinging to bitterness, holding on to old grudges, resentments, regrets. I carried some of mine for decades, like stones in my pocket, heavy but familiar. I thought they defined me, that they made me strong, but all they did was harden my heart and tighten my brow. Bitterness etches lines into your face that no cream can fix. People sense it. They may not know the details, but they feel the coldness in your presence. It took me a long time to realize that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's freedom. I wrote letters I never sent. I spoke apologies out loud in empty rooms. I let go, not for them, for me. And something strange happened. I started laughing more. My face softened. I felt lighter. People looked at me differently, like I was someone they wanted to talk to again. That's the real miracle. Letting go gives you back your youth. And finally, the sixth habit is pretending nothing's wrong. Ignoring your body's signals. Acting like you're fine when your joints ache. When your sleep is broken. When you haven't had a proper meal in days. We think ignoring it will keep us young. But denial only delays the inevitable crash. I used to skip doctor visits. I told myself I was just tired. But deep down, I was afraid. Afraid of bad news. Afraid of facing the truth. But pretending didn't make me stronger. It made me sicker, older, worn out. When I finally faced the truth, I got help. I changed my diet. I started moving every day. I prioritized rest. I made peace with the fact that aging is real. But suffering doesn't have to be. You can't outrun time. But you can walk alongside it with grace. People notice when you take care of yourself. You glow differently, not in some magical way, but in a way that says, I still value this life. Now, I'm not saying I've got it all figured out. I still catch myself slumping or slipping into silence. But I know now that these habits are choices, and we can choose differently every day before it's too late, because there's nothing more tragic than seeing someone fade away while they're still alive. And nothing more beautiful than someone who keeps showing up fully, even as the years pile on. So if any of this hits home, don't brush it off. Don't wait for someone to point it out. They won't, but they'll feel it, and so will you. Start today. Stand taller, let your eyes shine, take care of your body, connect, forgive, face the truth, not because you want to look young, but because you want to feel alive. That's the secret. And now that you know it, do something with it, before the mirror shows you someone you no longer recognize. Now let's clear some common questions. What stops us from reaching out for connection and support, even when we know we need it? And how can we rebuild that bridge before we become emotionally invisible? My friend, come sit with me a while. Let me pour you a cup of tea, and I'll tell you something I've learned over many seasons of stumbling through this beautiful, aching life. You ask why we don't reach out for connection and support, even when we know deep in our bones that we need it. It's a good question. One I've asked myself more times than I care to admit, especially during the long nights when silence presses heavy against the heart and the soul whispers that it's disappearing. I've seen people vanish in plain sight, not from death, mind you, but from loneliness, from carrying so much pain alone that they become emotionally invisible, not because others refuse to see them, but because they forget how to be seen. You see, the first thing that stops us is fear, not the loud kind that makes you scream and run. I'm talking about the quiet fear, the kind that tiptoes in, wraps itself around your chest, and whispers that if you show yourself as you really are, people will turn away. We fear rejection. We fear being misunderstood. We fear that our vulnerability will be too much or not enough. When I was a younger man, I wore pride like armor. If someone asked how I was doing, I'd smile and say fine, even when the world felt like it was crumbling beneath my feet. I was terrified that if I said, I'm not okay, they'd see me as weak, that they'd pity me or worse, withdraw. And so I stayed silent. Too many of us do. Then there's shame. Oh, that old ghost. It feeds on silence. It grows stronger the longer we keep our struggles hidden. We tell ourselves we should be stronger, more together, more capable. We compare our insides to other people's outsides and decide we're broken. So we retreat. We become actors in our own lives, playing the role we think others want us to play. I've seen mothers pretend to have it all together while falling apart inside. I've seen proud fathers suffer in silence because they believe asking for help is a betrayal of their role. I've seen children grow into adults who never learned to speak their hearts, only because no one showed them it was safe to do so. And pride, that stubborn companion, it convinces us that we're supposed to figure everything out on our own, that needing others is a flaw rather than a part of being human. But let me tell you something honest. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gets through this life alone. We weren't made that way. Even the strongest trees bend with the wind. Even the fiercest wolves run in packs. It's a cruel lie we tell ourselves, this myth of rugged independence. I used to believe it too, until the day I found myself sitting on a bench, hands shaking, heart aching, and realizing that the only thing keeping me from reaching out was my own pride. Not the world, not the people around me, just me. Of course, there's also the noise. The modern world is loud, isn't it? So much distraction, so many shiny things pulling us in 100 directions. We're more connected than ever, and yet so terribly alone. We scroll and scroll, pretending it's connection, but it's not. Not really. It's like drinking salt water when you're thirsty. Looks like it'll help, but it only makes you feel emptier. I remember when people used to knock on each other's doors just to talk. Now we hesitate to even call. I don't want to bother them, we say, but what we really mean is, I don't want to admit I need them. And that's the heartbreak of it. So what do? How do we rebuild that bridge before we fade away into the fog of our own unspoken pain? I'll tell you, we start small, like planting seeds. One honest conversation, one text that says, I'm struggling today, one coffee with no masks. We start by letting ourselves be seen, just a little at a time. It's scary, yes, it will feel like standing naked in a storm. But the miracle is, when you do that, when you open up, you give others permission to do the same. And suddenly, you're not alone anymore. You're two souls meeting in the middle of the dark, holding a lantern between you. And we must practice, like learning an old song you once knew by heart. We have to remember how to ask, how are you? And mean it. And when someone asks us, we must learn to answer honestly. I'm tired. I'm lonely. I need someone right now. It takes courage, but not the loud, heroic kind. The quiet kind that whispers, do it anyway. And when someone comes to you, don't rush to fix them. Just listen. Be a witness. Sometimes the greatest gift you can offer is your presence. No advice, no solutions. Just the warmth of knowing they are not alone in their storm. Let me tell you something else. You are not a burden. Whatever lies your mind tells you on the hard days, hear this from me. You are not too much. You are not too needy. You are not broken beyond repair. You are a human being with a heart that longs for connection. That's not weakness. That's your humanity calling out. And answering that call, reaching out, saying, I need help, that is one of the bravest things you will ever do. There's an old saying I once heard, and it has stayed with me. The wound is the place where the light enters you. I believe that. I've lived it. Some of the deepest friendships I've ever known began with the words, I'm not okay. Those words tore down walls, let the light in, and made room for something real, something lasting. So my friend, before you become invisible, before the silence swallows your voice, I beg you, reach out. Even if your hand shakes, even if your voice trembles, reach out. And if someone reaches for you, take their hand. Hold it gently. We are all just trying to find our way home to each other. And the road is easier when we walk it together. In what ways can returning to old passions or discovering new ones serve as medicine for both the soul and the aging body? To talk about passions. There is nothing quite like it to stir the spirit, especially when the body begins to creak and groan with the passing years. You see, my friend, I have walked a long path, watched the seasons change in my own skin, and learned that returning to old passions or discovering new ones is like medicine for both the soul and the aging body. It's a truth that becomes clearer with every passing decade. When youth fades and the body no longer moves with the ease it once did, it is those passions that breathe fresh life into the tired frame and weary heart. They are not just hobbies or pastimes. They are the fire that keeps the spirit warm, the wellspring of joy that flows endlessly if you let it. I remember when I was young, full of energy and dreams, my hands restless to create, to build, to express. There was a violin I played until my fingers ached, a garden I tended as though it were a sacred altar, and stories I wrote by candlelight. Life, as it often does, pulled me in other directions. Responsibilities piled high like stones on a weary path. The violin gathered dust. The garden grew wild and untamed. The stories stayed locked away in notebooks no one ever read. I thought those days were behind me. The passions of youth felt like relics, memories of a time that belonged to someone else. But then one day, many years later, I found myself sitting quietly, feeling the slow march of time in my bones. I was restless, yes, but also tired, not just physically, but deep inside. That's when it happened. I reached out for the violin again. The bow felt strange in my hand, the strings a little rough under my fingers, but oh, the music that came out. It wasn't perfect, not by a long shot, but it was alive. It was me. And in those notes, something stirred, a spark I thought was lost, the joy of creating, of connecting with something larger than myself. It was like drinking from a clear mountain spring after a long thirst. The music warmed my soul and eased the aches of my body. You see, passions, old or new, serve as medicine because they reconnect us to ourselves in ways nothing else can. When we engage with what we love, our minds sharpen, our hearts open. The weariness that settles over the years begins to lift. It is not just a distraction from pain or loneliness. It is a healing salve. Science now tells us that engaging in creative or physical passions stimulates the brain, encouraging new neural pathways, improving memory, and even lifting the spirits by releasing those marvelous chemicals called endorphins. But even without the science, the feeling is undeniable. There is a lightness that comes with doing something that makes your heart sing, something that calls you home to yourself. And the body, the body, it benefits too. Moving, creating, dancing, gardening, painting. These are not just activities for the young. They are the elixirs of life for the aging body. When I took up walking in the mornings, not just any walking, but walking with intention, observing the world waking up around me, it was as if my joints remembered the rhythm they had forgotten. My muscles, once stiff and reluctant, grew stronger. My breath found a new steady pace. I learned that the body does not grow old as quickly as we think. It is the mind that tires first, the spirit that dims. But passions rekindle that spirit, and the body follows. Discovering new passions, as I did later in life, is equally powerful. It reminds us that life is not a closed book, but a story with many chapters yet to be written. I took up pottery in my 70s, an art form I never imagined for myself. The clay, cool and yielding in my hands, became a metaphor for life itself. Malleable, capable of change, forgiving of mistakes. The joy of creating something tangible, feeling the smooth curves take shape, was a revelation. It made me feel young in a way I hadn't in decades. Learning something new also brings humility and excitement, a kind of playful curiosity that keeps the mind vibrant and the heart youthful. It shows us that no matter our age, we can still grow, still surprise ourselves. Returning to passions or finding new ones also offers connection. It draws us out of isolation. When I joined a local pottery class, I found not just clay and tools, but community. People of all ages sharing stories, laughter, and the occasional frustration over a collapsed vase or a glaze gone wrong. Those moments of shared experience weave threads of belonging and support that are vital as the years pass. To be seen and accepted in a circle of fellow travelers is a balm no medicine can match. Passions remind us that we are not alone, that we belong to something larger than our solitary selves. And there is a rhythm to these passions that nurtures balance in life. They teach patience when a seed takes time to sprout, or when the glaze doesn't turn out right the first time. They teach perseverance and the joy of small victories. They give us purpose beyond the ticking of a clock or the endless chores of daily living. In that purpose, the soul finds rest. The body finds reason to move. It's a dance, this life, and passions are the music. I have also found that passions help us make peace with the changes time brings. When we hold on too tightly to who we were, to the body that once was, to the speed and strength that time takes away, we invite frustration and sorrow. But when we embrace passions, we embrace the present moment and what it offers. Playing the violin slowly, feeling the weathered strings beneath my fingertips, I discovered beauty in imperfection. My garden may no longer be as lush as it once was, but the act of tending it connects me to the earth and the cycle of life. New passions like pottery remind me that creation is a process, not a product. This acceptance is medicine for the soul, soothing the aches of aging and teaching gratitude. So, my dear friend, whether it is an old love waiting patiently in the corner of your mind or a fresh curiosity knocking at your door, welcome it in. Don't wait for the perfect moment or for your body to feel just right. The medicine is in the doing, in the reaching out, in the joy of being fully alive in whatever small or grand way you can. The passions you choose to nourish will carry you through the seasons of your life, warming your soul, strengthening your body, and reminding you always that you are a vital, vibrant part of this world. And remember this, it's never too late. Never too late to pick up that brush, to write that poem, to plant those seeds, or to try your hand at something new. The river of life flows on, and so can you, carrying the treasures of passion with you like shining stones in your pocket. They will lighten your steps and brighten your days, trust me. I speak from a long road traveled and a heart that still beats with the rhythm of old songs and new dreams alike. What would it look like to age with intention, awareness, and presence, rather than quietly disappearing into habits that drain us of life? Aging with intention, awareness, and presence. Now there's a thought that stirs the soul and lights a fire even in an old heart like mine. I have walked through many years, seen the slow fading of youth's bright blaze, and I have watched too many slip quietly into the shadows of habits that drain the very essence of life from their bones. To age with intention is to refuse that silent fading. It is to declare with fierce gentleness that each day, each breath, still holds meaning, still holds the power to shape who we are. It means living fully awake, eyes wide open to the world and to ourselves, not as a fading echo, but as a living, breathing presence. What would that look like? Imagine waking up not as a routine, but as a ritual. Each morning, a conscious choice to greet the day with gratitude, with curiosity, with a readiness to engage. The body may be slower, yes. The joints may creak like old wood in a quiet house. But the spirit can be as sharp and vibrant as ever. To age with intention means honoring this vessel we have been given, listening to it, caring for it, not out of obligation, but out of love. It means moving gently but purposefully. It might mean stretching the limbs with care, walking with steady steps, or dancing softly to a favorite song. It is a dialogue with the body, not a battle. When we do this, we affirm that life is not over. It is simply changing shape. Awareness walks hand in hand with intention. It is the act of truly seeing, hearing, and feeling the world around us and inside us. When I was younger, I often rushed through life, carried away by the tide of urgency and endless to-do lists. But as the years piled on, I realized that the moments I remembered most vividly were those when I was fully present, sitting quietly by the fire, feeling its warmth on my skin, listening to the laughter of children in the park, watching the slow unfurling of a leaf in spring. To age with awareness means choosing to live deeply in these moments, to savor the small miracles that too often go unnoticed. It means being honest with ourselves about our needs, our fears, our joys, not hiding behind busyness or distractions, but meeting ourselves with kindness and clarity. Presence is the crown jewel of aging well. To be present is to be truly here, not lost in the past regrets or future worries, but anchored firmly in the now. I have met many who, despite the aches and the slowing down, radiate a certain glow. It is the glow of presence. Their eyes hold the light of someone who knows how to listen deeply, how to give themselves fully to a conversation, a walk, a moment of silence. Presence means showing up for life as it is, not as we wish it to be. It means embracing the imperfections, the uncertainties, the fragility, and in doing so, it brings a profound peace that no youthful vigor alone can offer. Aging with intention, awareness, and presence means breaking free from the dull, draining habits that so easily trap us. It is all too easy to slip into routines that numb the spirit, endless hours in front of screens, mindless consumption of news or distractions, the avoidance of discomfort by burying ourselves in busyness. These habits drain our vitality like a slow leak, leaving us hollowed out and disconnected. I have seen people live decades in such shadows. their days passing unnoticed, their light dimming slowly but surely. But it does not have to be that way, not for you, not for anyone willing to wake up and choose differently. Living with intention means setting clear, meaningful goals even in the later chapters of life. These goals are not grand ambitions of youth, but humble, soul-nourishing aims. Perhaps it is to learn a new skill, to mend broken relationships, to write a letter each week to someone you love, or to plant a small garden where life can flourish. It could be as simple as committing to a daily walk in nature, to meditation, or to moments of creative expression. These small acts build a life rich with purpose and connection. They remind us that we are still growing, still evolving, still capable of change and wonder. Awareness requires us to cultivate mindfulness, not as a passing trend, but as a way of being. I encourage you to pause often during your day. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Notice the air on your skin. Listen to the sounds around you. When pain or discomfort arises, instead of pushing it away, acknowledge it. Meet it with gentle curiosity. This practice can transform suffering from a silent thief into a teacher. It reveals layers of resilience and wisdom we did not know we had. Awareness also means tuning into our emotional landscape, to recognize when loneliness creeps in, when joy bursts forth, when gratitude blooms. By embracing these feelings fully, we live more authentically and deeply. Presence, my dear friend, is perhaps the most challenging and rewarding practice. It calls us to step away from the mental noise and be fully engaged with life's unfolding. When we are present, we listen with our whole being, we touch with intention, we speak with honesty. In my experience, presence fosters connection, not only with others, but with ourselves and with the divine mystery of existence. It reminds us that even as our bodies change, our essence remains vibrant and full of light. Presence brings a richness to our days, turning the mundane into the sacred. The morning coffee becomes a ritual of gratitude, the conversation a dance of souls, the silence a space for reflection and renewal. To age with intention, awareness, and presence is to embrace the fullness of what it means to be alive. It is to reject the quiet disappearance into habits that drain us and instead to step boldly into each day with a heart wide open. It is to nurture the fire within so that it burns brightly, no matter the years. And it is to share that light with those around us, offering a living example of what it means to grow old with grace and dignity. I have come to see aging not as a slow decline, but as a deepening. Like the roots of a great tree that stretch further and hold the earth more firmly, so too can we deepen our understanding, our compassion, and our joy. We become storytellers, teachers, keepers of wisdom, but only if we choose to be awake, only if we refuse to let the days slip by unnoticed. So what would it look like to age with intention, awareness, and presence? It would look like a life lived deliberately, a life where each action, each thought, each breath is a thread in a rich tapestry. It would look like a person who wakes with purpose, moves with kindness, listens with an open heart, and embraces the mystery of each moment. It would look like laughter shared with friends, tears shed without shame, and silence welcomed as a companion. It would look like gratitude for the journey, no matter how winding or steep the road. It would look like love given and received freely, a light shining steadily in the twilight years. And my dear friend, if you can live like this, then you will never quietly disappear. You will blaze a trail for others to follow. You will be a beacon of hope and proof that the beauty of life does not fade with age. It transforms, it deepens, it becomes something altogether precious and rare. That, I promise you, is the true gift of aging with intention, awareness, and presence. If you liked today's discussion, don't forget to like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to stay updated with every video we release. And yes, don't forget to share your experiences and thoughts in the comments. Every comment is special to us. Your feedback helps us improve further. We'll continue to meet you in every new video on this channel. So until next time, take care.